Everyone, can everyone hear me? Can you give me a hand if you can hear me? Yay, thank you. So, wow, 10 people are here and about 130 signed up. So, I'm just going to give it like one more minute to see who else can come. Please remember to mute yourself. And so this is basically just going to be just Q&A the whole time. So, hopefully, you brought some questions and you can unmute yourself and ask questions, or you can chat them in the chat box, and I will try and keep up. And feel free to turn your camera off or leave it on, whatever you are the most comfortable with. So while we're waiting for a minute, how about in the chat, if you feel comfortable, you can tell me where you're joining from and if you're applying this cycle. Anyone? Everyone shy? Cool. Tennessee. Okay. So the cycle. Awesome. Thank you. So I'm not sure if you all know what Leland is. Do you know what Leland is exactly? Because I have a feeling some of you might not really know. Does everyone know what Leland is? Can you mute, please? Over the screen? I don't think I can mute people. Thank you. Okay. I'm just going to get started. So I'm going to, yes, I'm going to clarify what Leland is. Leland is a platform where coaches like myself can help people like you gain your dream admission to law school. We have MBA programs. We do lots of free classes. There's a library that you can sign up to get content. We have blogs. So it's really a great resource. It's free to join. And then you can hire coaches. So it's almost like Etsy, kind of, where there's all these different vendors and we all kind of work for ourselves and try and help you guys out to gain the goals that, reach your goals. So that's what it is. If you scan this QR code right here, you can join, just sign up. It's totally free, as I said. We have a great newsletter. We have Slack channels. It's just kind of a really great resource if you're planning ahead and going to apply to schools. You can meet and talk to people. I do free 15-minute calls with people and try to see if we're a good fit. And there's different formats for coaching, like I work with people hourly. I also have, just essay only work if you just want help with your essays. And then I also have, I work with people, like I'm signing up people to work with me from now until basically a year from now, when they're finally hearing from their schools and deciding where they want to go and if they're on wait lists, and managing scholarship offers and all that stuff. So I highly recommend that you join Leland and take advantage of everything we have to offer. So that's what Leland is. Okay, so now a little bit about myself. I am Indrani. I've been with Leland about 2.5 years now, and I've taught a lot of free classes, so maybe some of you have taken those classes before. I worked at Stanford University. I was the associate director of admissions at the law school for a while. So I learned a lot behind the desk, on the other side of that admissions process, where I was reading every single file and participating with decisions. And I actually left Stanford to become a full-time coach. So that's what I've been doing now. I actually worked for a couple companies in the last several years, including Anna Ivy, Admit Advantage, and Accept You. And now I'm kind of working on my own through Leland. So I've literally read thousands of law school applications over the years, helped hundreds of people get into their dream schools. And so I'd like to share some of that information with you now. Again, for those of you who joined late, we're just going to do a Q&A today for 45 minutes. You can unmute yourself to ask questions or just type them in the chat, and I will try to get to all of them, as many as I can. I had sent you an email. Did everyone get my email yesterday? Basically, awesome. So basically, I'm going to try and make this as general as possible. I understand sometimes people have their own unique situations, and they want kind of, tailored advice. And I think this is not exactly the right place for that, because we have a lot of people who will be it won't apply to them. So let's try and keep it as general as possible. But as I said, if you sign up for Leland, this QR code right here is you can get directly to me and send me a message. You can schedule a meeting with me. So if there's some questions we didn't get to or we run out of time, feel free to do that, and I'd love to meet with you after this session. Okay. So that's it. I'm just here for your pleasure and information. So if you have questions, just start shooting them at me, and I'll try and keep up and answer them as best as I can. So here's some ideas of questions you might have. So I'm just going to sit here and wait for your questions. Unless no one has questions, and then I will just talk your ear off, but hopefully you do. What made a law school personal statement truly stand out to you? Okay, this is a good question, and I think it's probably a burning question for everyone. I honestly feel that the personal statement, the essays, they're probably the most important part of your application. The numbers obviously are super important, your grades and LSAT, but once it comes down to it, the personal statement is really the thing that you have the most control over. After you have an LSAT score and you've graduated from college, you can write about whatever you want. And I think one mistake people make is they go into this process thinking, what can I say that will catch the attention of the admissions office? Or what can I do to look unique? How can I make a most compelling story? And it's kind of like you're doing it wrong. If you're trying to think, what is the admissions committee looking for? The admissions committee doesn't go into this process looking for anything. Basically, they come in with an open mind, open heart, and just wait to see what's there. Every year it's different. Every year there are, sometimes there's a hot topic. Like right now, I'm hearing about a lot of immigration. People want to go into immigration and constitutional law. Other years it's tech and IP. So they're not looking at each person individually trying to think, oh, is this person unique and standing out? It's more like a comparative process where they're putting together a well-rounded class of well-rounded people. So I recommend you do, some self-reflection. You want to be able to articulate why you want a law degree, why you actually need a law degree, why you deserve a place in their class, and be authentic and genuine and tell them your story. I think another mistake people make is they regurgitate their resume. If you do your resume right and you flesh it out enough, you don't have to regurgitate everything on your resume, because they'll have your resume. They'll be looking at it. The resume is kind of a supportive document. So they'll be reading your essay, and then you can say, when I worked at so-and-so, or when I was in this class at this university, and they can look at your resume and go, oh, okay, this is their job title, this is what the kind of work they did. And then you can kind of pick a lived experience or two and go into detail and really flesh out the story and make them care about what you care about, and make them care about you, and that you're a good person and you have all these great attributes, and they want to see you in their school. Okay, I'm going to ask people to hang on to their questions because I'll never catch up. So while I'm in the middle of answering a question, if you could wait a minute, that would be great, because I don't know how far. It looks like there's a lot of questions. So I hope that helped you, Julian, about how to kind of go about writing the essay. As I said, and there's no right or wrong answer. Honestly, you can write about anything. It doesn't have to be, there's no kind of formula. So just be authentic If I have time, I can go through some of the my favorite essays over the years, or you can sign up for a meeting with me and we can talk more about essays at any time. I was wondering if there are any other or better alternatives to the LSAT. That's a good question. Now, GRE, the law schools say they are accepting the GRE. Most law schools say they accept it. However, it has been a pretty recent development that the ABA has allowed the GRE. So, are you familiar with the ABA 509 reports? Those reports are, it's mandated by the ABA that every accredited law school publish a report every year. So if you Google any school like Stanford ABA 509, you're going to get this nice PDF that has data. It'll have like sorry, I'm having allergies. It'll have the median LSAT and GPA. It'll have how many people applied, how many people were admitted, all sorts of cool data. And in that data, it says how many people were admitted with a GRE. And for the most part, it looks like it's pretty low. Like most classes are, there's like 10% that are admitted with a GRE only. So in terms of that, unfortunately, it isn't, the LSAT is kind of it. I have had people get in with a GRE, but it's pretty sketchy. I don't feel that confident when people have only a GRE that they're going to get into all the schools they want to get into. That might change in the future, but right now it's still pretty sketchy. There is also a program, and now the name of it is just like has slipped my mind, but there's a program where it's like a class that you can take. It's like a pre-law class. And if you take that class, I think it's 6 weeks long, and then take the final exam and pass it, some schools will allow you to waive the LSAT, but it's not like every school in the country. So in my follow-up email, since I'm losing my mind and I can't remember the name of it, I will send you that information if you're interested in looking into that. Okay, so hopefully that helped with the LSAT alternatives. Amber, is there such a thing as too early when it comes to submitting applications? And does 3 LSATs takes reflect poorly on an application? Okay, two questions. No, you can't be too early. I think I know like the general consensus is you should be as early as you can. Some people think they won't get in anywhere if they don't apply by September 15th, which is just not true. It's totally fake news. Having worked at Stanford, we really didn't make most of our decisions until after Thanksgiving, to be honest. And there was a lot of pre-work that happens before that with like, administrative work that the team would have to do before we could start making decisions. But when you go on Reddit, and by the way, if you are working with me, I make everyone promise they they stay off Reddit till they're done applying. But if you go on Reddit, you'll hear that, if you don't apply by September 15th, you won't get in anywhere. There are some reasons to apply early. It is a rolling process. So yeah, it might be true that a couple seats have been taken if you wait till mid-November. But for the most part, I mean, if the deadline isn't until like mid-February and they fill their class up by October, imagine all the thousands of applications that don't even have a chance. And they might miss some really great applications. So it's not like the class will get filled up by September 15th. So my recommendation is, if you're starting now, you have your LSAT score that you want, and you have time to write and polish those essays and get everything done, go for it. Apply early. But if you don't, I really recommend slowing your roll a little bit and making sure everything is perfect, or as perfect as it can be. And if you apply by like the end of October or even mid-November, you'll still have a lot of great options. The other question was, does 3 LSAT takes reflect poorly? Okay, it depends. So the way the human eyeball works, I think, so let's say you apply, let's say you take the LSAT and you get your first score is a 163. And then you take it again and it's a 168. And then you think, I know I can do better. I'm going to try again and hope I get, higher than 170. So you have a 163 and a 168, and then you take it again and you get a 164. This is actually quite common. Then what happens is the 163 and 164 kind of like get grouped together in the mind's eye. The 168 seems like an anomaly. So it'll be like, even though you got a 168, the trend is lower than that. So if you had just taken the 163 and the 168 and didn't take it the third time, then the trend is to go, oh, look, they got a 168 the second time. I really consider the very first time you take it as almost like a practice. Most people take it twice and it's totally fine, and go for it. When you're starting to think about taking the third time, it just seems like a lot of people that I've worked with over the years, they don't do as well as they thought they would do the third time. So think hard before you do that. And then also, unless of course the second time you took it you were sick or there was some technical issues that affected your score, then you can take it a third time and you can write an addendum about that. But I would just like consider it before I really don't recommend. There are people who just take it. They have 5 scores and they have like a cancel here, and it just starts looking really crazy after a while. That I feel like at a certain point you should like stop the LSAT prep and then just start working on the other stuff that you have. Okay, hopefully that helped, Amber. Laurel, do you have advice you can share for those who may be applying after being in the workforce for an extended period of time? Yeah, so one piece of advice, I don't know what an extended period of time is. I mean, some people consider 2 years as an extended period of time. Other people have been out of school for 10 or 15 years, which I consider a real extended period of time. So I think though that my biggest piece of advice, if you can, is to try and get an academic recommendation letter. I understand that if you've been out of school for a long time, that might not be possible, but I found also that they're kind of loath to ask teachers from a long time ago because they're like, oh, they'll never remember me. It's embarrassing. But honestly, if you have a favorite teacher or professor, I should say, from college, because you had a great relationship and you did really well in their class or you took several classes from them, they might remember you. And it's really no harm, no foul. The reason I recommend you try is that academic letters of rec are, they're weighted heavily, more heavily than work, because the adcoms are really looking to see what kind of student you are more than what kind of employee. So I would definitely try and get an academic letter of rec if you can. Hopefully that helped, Laurel. In terms of personal statements, how creative are students allowed to be? Would you recommend taking creative liberties, or should you keep it strictly academic, like in structure? So there are 2 kinds of essays. When I have clients working with me as a coach, I recommend that all of my clients write 2 different essays, because one thing that is not always clear until you're really looking into applying is that every law school has a different essay prompt. There's some law schools who are very prescribed, and they say, tell us why you want to go to law school. What are your plans? Why do you need a law degree to get there? What are your goals? And why do you want to go to UCLA, for example? It's pretty hard to be creative there because it's pretty prescribed. But there's other essay prompts where it's like, tell us something about you that we wouldn't know otherwise. Anything. We have your resume, we have your transcripts, you have your letters of rec, and so tell us something new and different. And in that essay, you can do something creative. I think you don't want to be so you don't want to go crazy, I think, but you can do show not tell and really like get people sucked into whatever story that you're writing. It doesn't have to be dry and clinical. So that's one thing I help people with, is really getting showing what when I read an essay, I'm like, I do lots of comments and it's like, tell me what happened next and how were you feeling, and you can really go into kind of your feelings and the effect of whatever experience it was, and you can talk, get the person to kind of like picture them in that environment. So you can use some creative license, but I've also read essays where they're trying to be super funny or wacky, and it kind of can fall flat. I think it's pretty risky. Okay, Rachel, what do schools look for in a why X school essay? That's a great question. So if you look the way they usually write them, it's like why they usually say, "Why do you like UCLA?" or whatever. I think one mistake people make a lot is they're pretty generic. I mean, if you're gonna be super generic with your why X essay, it doesn't add any value. So, like at Stanford, people would always say, the faculty are super smart and the students um, are super smart and the weather is great. And it's like, okay, you could say that about Berkeley too, or UCLA or whatever. So do some research, make it kind of like a ping pong match. So it's like you have this to offer and the school has that to offer and I can contribute this to this experience. So kind of go back and forth and be like, I'm a great fit for your school because I have this experience that I can contribute to the law review, and I have this other experience that I can add to your clinic, and that kind of thing. So you can make it very specific to the school and to you. Look up I also recommend that you actually network with people when you're putting together your school list. And one way to do that is to join your undergraduate LinkedIn community. And you can do research into who has gone to law school and what they're doing now. And because you already have something in common with them, which is you went to the same college, um, and LinkedIn is really, it's a social network where it's kind of like everyone's helping each other. It's not competitive. It's more like I'm here to help and you'll help me and if I help you and vice versa. So if you reach out to people and send message and say, "Hey, I keep saying UCLA, I'm just being random, but I went to UCLA as well and I see you're working at this law firm in this field and I'm applying to law school and I'm wondering if you could answer some questions for me." And I think not only will this help you with your why essays and you might learn some cool stuff that you can't find on the websites, but also you might learn some stuff that might want you, might influence you to take a school off a list or maybe add a school to your list that you hadn't thought of before. So it's a really good resource to actually talk to real people and not just look at the admissions office websites, which basically, obviously, they only put great stuff on their website about how awesome they are. Um, will a really high GRE score be comparable to a good LSAT score, or do you think taking the GRE puts you at a disadvantage? Okay, here's a real example. I had a woman who had a 100% perfect GRE score. And her outcomes, she had options, but she didn't get into Harvard, Stanford, Yale, and she applied to all three. I gave her very blunt, I was like, I just don't know. She didn't have an LSAT score, but she had a perfect GPA and a perfect GRE, and she did not get into the top 5. So take that for what it is. I mean, I know that's just one isolated example, but I feel uncomfortable with GRE only just because there isn't enough data and it just seems really random. I think it's partly because um, the adcoms, they're just kind of like, there's a lot of kind of old school opinions and and like the attitude about the LSAT. The LSAT's been around forever, and it was actually designed to help predict how successful someone will be in law school. And so I think, and the GRE was not. And there are some studies that basically say, yes, the LSAT can predict how successful someone will be in law school. And so the adcoms really believe that, and the GRE is for other kinds of grad school. And so I think they just kind of are automatically leaning towards the LSAT. I wish it wasn't true, but that's kind of what I've seen. How old is too old for letters of recommendation? For example, if you took 2 gap years and your LOR from college now 2 years old, should you not use them? Amber, do you have the letters of rec on the LSAC system already, or you're just saying that you are going to ask them? It honestly, if your teacher from 2 years ago remembers you really well and you had a great relationship, it doesn't matter when it was from. It also doesn't matter what they taught you, as long as they can assess and talk about what kind of student you were and, what you contributed to class discussions and how good your writing was and that you're a good human being. It doesn't matter if that was 2 years ago or 10 years ago. So I would definitely ask if you can. Let me see, do you okay, sorry, Amber, I lost you. Okay, yeah, so that's kind of my that's what I was kind of saying about uh asking for academic letters. So the academic letters just mean a lot more to the adcoms. So if you can, I would definitely get academic letters, and some schools even require one academic letter. So you'll have to kind of figure that out. Um, how much weight is really given to GPA versus LSAT, specifically for someone who has been out of undergrad for a couple years? And how can an applicant best explain a low GPA or LSAT? Okay. The weight, it's really hard for me to, I don't think there's a way to quantify like it's this percent or that percent. I do know that it does seem correlated. So like if I was working with someone who was out of school for 10 years and her LSAT was she took the LSAT recently and it was not that great, but she had a 4.0 from a really good college from 10 years ago. And she got into pretty much everywhere she wanted to get into, but she had a lot of work experience and a really kind of tight narrative. So it's possible to get in, but I think you have to look at the like the splitter, super splitter stuff. So like I did help someone 2 years ago. He had a 2 point something like a 2.4, 2.6 GPA, and he had a 170 LSAT score, and he got into top 14s with a 2 something GPA, which seems to say that the LSAT counts a lot. And it's unfortunate, but a 4.0 from a top school doesn't automatically help you. If you have like mid 150 LSAT score, it's going to be a rough ride, to be brutally honest, if you only have top 14s on the mind. I have lots of conversations about managing expectations. And one of my biggest pieces of advice is that if you want to be a lawyer or you have plans of what you're going to use your law degree for, you can get that done. It might not be Harvard. So just when I talk to people who say if I don't get into Harvard, Stanford, Yale, it's not worth me going to law school. I honestly, especially after I hear their story about why they want to go to law school, it makes me sad because they have these great plans and they want to help a certain population, and they can do that without going to Stanford, Harvard, Yale. They can do that going to a locally reputed school. So when you're putting together your school list, I really recommend that you think hard about your goals. And if you look at the US News and World Report, where they do the rankings, if you look at Stanford, for example, Stanford's number 1, but then they break it down and it's like I'm just making it up, number 16 for constitutional law and number 23 for whatever law. So you can find programs that are like ranked highly. And if you really look deep at those programs that mean something to you, you'll get a fantastic education at a highly ranked program, even if the overall ranking isn't as great. And here's a great example. So I am in the Bay Area, and a lot of people, when they want to move to the Bay Area, they look at Berkeley and Stanford. There's also Santa Clara University, who they have a really amazing tech law program with all these cool specialties and programs and opportunities. And even though they're nationally ranked not very high, if you look at these amazing programs and then you look at the career data and where the people are working, they get recruited to amazing law firms in San Francisco and like the Googles and the Metas and Apple. And they have amazing careers. So I just really, really try and encourage you to open your horizons a little bit and open your mind and broaden that kind of goal of which schools you're interested in. Sure, apply to Stanford, Harvard, Yale, but have a bunch of schools that are well aligned with your numbers. And then a couple, I call them likelies now instead of safeties, because I mean, sometimes it's like mind blowing what happens. Like last year, this one woman I worked with, her number one choice was NYU, and it was the first school she heard from, NYU, and she didn't get in. Oh, sorry. She didn't. The first school she heard from was Fordham, and she applied to that one as like a likely safety, and she didn't get in. And so then she was like, "Oh my God, of course I'm not getting into NYU now." But she did. She got into NYU. It's so subjective. So you have to kind of like, and we don't know what happened. We don't know if maybe there was an AdCom member that loved the undergrad school she went to, or maybe that year they had too many immigration potential lawyers and she wanted to go into tech, or I mean, it could be any number of things behind the scenes. But in any event, that was kind of a weird outcome where she did not get into Fordham and she got into NYU. So I really, I try and encourage my clients to do some research into schools that might not be on their list right now, but add some schools so that you'll have some great options. Okay. So Michael, I hope that helped. Oh, you also asked, how can you explain a low GPA or LSAT? So it depends. So the addendum is there that you can write an addenda about anything in your whole application. It can be about a gap in your career. It can be about a low GPA. It could be about a low LSAT. You have to be careful though. If your transcript, your undergraduate transcript, let's say it has, you're like up here in the 3.8 basically, and then you have one semester that was like a 3.2 and it's a very obvious dip, I recommend you write what happened. And usually it's something like that happened, it was a phase or like a one incident thing, or you were sick or you had a family emergency. Those things are all, write them in the addendum and be like, the most important thing about these addenda is that whatever issue you had for that semester is handled, and that it's not going to affect you in law school. So I recommend you actually say that. I think one mistake, so there's a couple mistakes with these addenda. Sometimes it just sounds like this long drawn out kind of like sob story. These things should be really short and sweet and to the point. You don't want to go on and on and on until it's like another essay. So you also want to make sure, as I said, that like, start with a positive, and then you kind of put in like, I got really sick and it's like, I'm totally healthy now, or I've been diagnosed, or I'm on medication. I mean, people do talk about their mental health, and I think it can work. And I help people write about that in these addenda. The thing you want to avoid though, like if you have a crappy LSAT score, you don't want to talk about test taking anxiety, because obviously you're going to be taking tests in law school. You don't want, the way I look at this process is that it's like a risk assessment. The AdComs are looking at all the people that they could admit, and they want to admit people who will thrive. So if you're injecting any implied risk by talking about how you got really stressed out in school, or you can't take tests because you get so anxious, that's going to be a risk, right? They're going to go, oh, I wonder if this person's actually going to do well. So you have to be really careful when you're explaining away things. Hopefully that was okay. Gerald, isn't it true that being an attorney requires 10 years of law school? Can you go directly to law school after graduating from senior high? I'm not really understanding. So law school is 3 years. You're going to go to high school, you're going to go to college for 4 years, and then you're going to go to law school for 3 years. So that's kind of the way it works in this country. If you're, unless I'm misunderstanding the question. 10 years of law school. You definitely need an undergrad degree, a 4-year college degree, a bachelor's degree to apply. You need to have, by the time law school starts, you need to have your bachelor's degree conferred. Is it true that it's a lot harder to get into law school going straight through, meaning going directly from undergrad to law school with no gap years? No, that's not true. They admit some people that are still in college. They meet some people who have been out for 2 years. They admit some people have been out for 10 years. It's just like it. I've helped a ton of people get in who are still in college. But a gap year doesn't hurt, and it can help you. Like if you go get some work experience, you might learn things that you like, and you might learn things that you don't like, and you might meet a lot of people to network and figure out where you want to apply. I think it's kind of a personal decision. So some people are feeling like if they go straight through to grad school, they're going to have that momentum still. Other people are burnt out and they want to take a break, make a little money, and then go to grad school. Other people worry that if they take a break, they won't go back to school. So it's kind of you have to do a little self reflection, but I wouldn't think of it as a good or bad thing. It's neither, it's neutral. What are some tips for people applying straight from undergrad to stand out among those who have work experience? I think this is, oh, and by the way, for any of you who joined late, the recording will be sent to you, so don't stress if you missed the beginning. So, I mean, I don't have any special tips for people who are in undergrad to stand out from people who didn't. I mean, it's a different scenario. The people that I have helped go to law school straight from undergrad, they know what they want to do. I think one mistake people make is in the essays they say, I'm not really sure what kind of lawyer I want to be, or I don't know what specialty I want. I just know I want to be a lawyer because everyone always tells me I'd be a good lawyer. I think that's not the recipe for success. The recipe for success is I, you know, what are your interests and why are you interested in those things, and maybe the classes that you took and the papers you wrote or the internships you did all kind of support your trajectory to law school, and that can work perfectly fine. Does undergrad rank matter? I did not attend a top undergrad. It's hard to compete with folks who went to top institutions because those schools offer so many good pre-law opportunities. So one thing that people think is like if you major in pre-law or you do pre-law things, it's going to help you. It doesn't necessarily. I think it actually is a little bit less diverse than someone who's like a majoring in computer science or music or something totally off the cuff, because that's much more adds more kind of diversity and richness to the class. The other thing you should know is that the adcoms do understand that people go to whatever school they go to. There's a lot of different reasons. It might not be because you couldn't get in somewhere. It might be your family was somewhere, or there's a lot of reasons. And I think, and the other thing that it kind of helps balance out the playing field is the LSAC. When you're applying to law school through LSAC, they put together an academic summary report. So once you upload your transcripts, they're going to put a report together for the law schools to help assess your potential. And one thing that they do is they look at all the people that went to your undergrad school, and they look at your GPA at that school, and they kind of do this calculation to show where you are in the band of other people that went to your undergrad school. So it's apples to apples for your undergrad. So I don't think you need to worry too much about which school you went to. Hopefully that helps. Okay, Amber, the LOs. No, you can use those. They were written for law school, and probably when you were still in connection with them, so they're probably really great letters, and I would use them. What are the different types of legal defenses that can be used in a criminal case? That's not really a question about law school admissions. I don't think. So I'm going to skip that one. Sorry, Gerald. I'm not really understanding your questions. You're welcome to, schedule a meeting with me if you have questions that are kind of a little bit different than what we're doing here. How do top law schools define and assess diversity beyond race and ethnicity? It's a very broad definition, and it's kind of like, what is your own unique perspective, and how can you contribute that to can you still hear me, everyone? Okay, sorry, I got a message that the device was changed. So yeah, so it can be pretty much everything. I have had people write diversity statements that isn't just about ethnicity or race. It's about, growing up in a really small town in a conservative place. Or I had one person who grew up in a very small town in a conservative place and then went to a big public university, and she never realized what the world was like until she got there, and it just kind of opened up her mind to all sorts of new things. And she was overwhelmed at first, but then it was really cool, and she actually taught her parents something about being more open-minded. It was a really great essay that I still remember from years ago, and that was a great diversity essay. But she was, small town, white, Caucasian woman. So I'm graduating with 4.0 GPA, but have 2 W's on my transcript. Do you think I should write an addendum? Yeah, I think um, anytime there are kind of like anomalies that an admissions committee person might be scratching their head about, you should write an addendum, and you probably have a good reason for those W's. If you have a 4.0 GPA, it's not gonna make or break you. It'll be fine. Um, what are some advice for aspiring law students? That's what this whole thing's about. I think that one thing that people should really do is talk to people. I think that's one thing that people don't do enough. Really network and talk to people and get to know, is the field that I'm going into, what is the job market like? How hard was it to get the job that those people had? If you meet someone that has a really good career that sounds interesting to you. So talk to people. I think that's the advice that I have. Tips for someone who's been out of college for 20 years. I think, Kimberly, that essay would probably be super interesting. I did have someone who was out of college for 20 years. She had a whole amazing career in PR, and then she wanted to completely pivot for really good reasons. And as long as you can articulate your reasons for wanting to do this big change, you'll be fine. I think the story has to make sense though. So that's my tip. I'm an international applicant, so I have no LSAT GPA. I don't get a superior. Does this mean I should focus even more on my LSAT? Yeah, the LSAT's going to be the thing that really can, level the playing field for you. Superior is great. Hopefully, you have some great letters of recommendation as well. So that would be my advice: is focus on that LSAT. Okay. Oh, wow, I'm at the bottom of the list, and we still have 2 more minutes. Tony, sorry. I graduated with my MA in 2023, and I'm currently finishing up a 2-year fellowship. Will be out of school for 2 years. Negatively impact my chances into no. I think the only time it can negatively affect your outcomes is if you're like bumming around Europe and you have no plans and no prospects, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm just going to go to law school because I don't know what else I want to do. But if you have a plan and you're doing something productive and it's going to enrich your background and your future, that's great. So okay, right on time. So again, I really encourage you to sign up for Leland. If you aren't already a member, it's free to join. And also, if you liked this event, once you leave, you will get the option to give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. And if you select thumbs up, you'll have the option to give me a star rating. And it would be awesome if you gave me 5 stars, because that really helps me out with my stuff here. So I would love it if you would do that for me. And there's my QR code again. And thank you so much. Again, if you want to meet, please scan my profile, join Leland. We can meet for a 15-minute chat at your convenience and my convenience. And one of the things that I have to offer is a comprehensive coaching package. So for those of you who are applying this fall, I can work with you from today until you're done and help you with every single thing that any questions you had here. I can help you with anything about, and all your essays, your addenda, and letters of recommendation, contacts, and whatever it is that you have a burning need to do and want help with, I will be there for you. So thank you so much. Oh, Daniela, are you still here? Because I can answer your question. I missed it about tailoring your resume. Hi. Okay. So tailoring your resume, you it's a different kind of format than a job resume, but you don't have to tailor it to the school. You just have to make sure that you flesh it out enough that you don't have to go into too much detail in your essays. And I think that's one of the mistakes I think people do. They kind of like have a one-page resume that describes what they have been doing at the jobs, and then they use their essay and they say the same thing in different words. So I recommend that you flesh out the resume enough that you don't have to talk about it too much in your essays. And also, most schools allow for 2 pages, so you can really kind of like add more information than you think than just a one-page resume. Alrighty, have a good night, everyone, and just ping me, scan my QR code, and ping me for a meeting, and I'd be happy to meet with you. Okay, I'm gonna hang out now. Bye.